Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Sports Hub. We have lots of exciting topics to cover this week, like a recap of Pointers men's ice hockey season, looking at the Pointers baseball team, and also looking towards Selection Sunday for March Madness, so don't go away because we'll be right back. Despite Saturday's 6-2 WIAC Conference Tournament Championship loss, the Pointers men's ice hockey team had a great season. They ran through the WIAC regular season, capturing the regular season crown along with being ranked in the USCHO top 15 all season long. I know the season was cut short, but the Pointers have a lot to be proud of this season. Don't you agree? I'll start with you, Brody.
Well, I guess I do agree with that. They had a pretty good season. It is disappointing that they did not make it to the D3 NCAA tournament, especially how they played at home versus on the road. They looked unstoppable. I mean, besides obviously the one game that really mattered to them, but I would say it is very disappointing that they're not in the tournament.
It was just it sucks, but it was just a choke job on all fronts. Like when they had the puck on offense, they just didn't seem like the team that went on a 9-game winning streak beforehand. They seemed lost. The passes were very sloppy, and they just could not just get. They got shots on the board, but it wasn't. I didn't feel like it was really quality shots.
No, without question, it wasn't. I feel like we have to credit Eau Claire with how well they played that entire facet of the game. The goaltender only giving up 2 goals. One of them was a shorthanded that wasn't necessarily his fault. So in reality, in his head, it was a 6-1 game. But in all facets of the game, Eau Claire really flipped the script on the Pointers to what they've been doing all season, crushing teams in KB Willett Arena. They really came in there and just a knockout punch really early. It was a 0-0 game after the first period, and then Pointers scored a shorthanded, took a 1-0 lead, and then Eau Claire just didn't look back. They scored 6 unanswered goals.
Yeah.
It was just, there's really not much to say about that.
I agree. There really is not much to say about that. It's not the Pointers team that we've seen all year. You don't let a team score 6 and then without responding heavily, they let Stout up, was it 2 or 3 goals, and they still came back to win by how many? Like
4. Yeah, they were up. Stout was up 2-0 after 1, and then Point came back with a hat trick and 1 extra goal in the second period and took a 4-2 lead. So they were a resilient team. Obviously, it's not exciting to be a Pointer fan because they lost, but they do have to keep their heads high. They had a tremendous regular season.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're not going to make it to the NC2A. A lot of us thought that they were a shoo-in.
Yeah.
But I guess by the way they lost, the committee thought that was enough to take them out. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah. When it's my thoughts to that is that they're still probably a top 15. They're probably still ranked in the top 15. However, it was a 6-2 loss that really just brought them like, okay, well these teams have probably just done better consistently, or they've just had more impressive wins. And that was just a complete detriment. That loss was catastrophic to their entire season. And, we were saying that, like, okay, well, we were saying before is that this WIAC tournament was about mainly just, like, focusing on seeing, because we all thought they were just going to make it. But then they come in, and they're like, no, you just barely miss out. You're one of the first teams out, and it's really heartbreaking.
Really is, and it also makes you question whether or not they should expand the college playoffs to kind of be a D1 format where there's 4 teams in 4 different regions, just to give more schools opportunities, and to give a school like Eau Claire an opportunity to go after a national championship with how hot they've been playing.
I will say that's an important point to make because Eau Claire won the WIAC and they still didn't make the tournament. I can sort of understand because they're still like top 30. They're like maybe like 29th or so, or probably much higher than that now. But they weren't like top 15, or I should say top 12 in this case for the tournament. So, I think that's just a little weird to me that the conference winner didn't make the tournament. So
it is strange. You don't really have many tournaments where champion doesn't make.
No, definitely not. I mean, you don't see that in any sort of NCAA tournament, like mostly basketball. I mean, you look at guys that win the Sun Belt, well, they make it to the tournament. I mean,
A little bit, yeah. It's a strange thing. It'll also be interesting to see how many seniors choose to come back for their 5th or 6th year because of the COVID-granted NCAA eligibility year. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk punters baseball, so don't go away. All right.
I just wanted to get good grades and to do well. But it also made me realize that I have a lot of career goals.
You're there to get a full college experience, not only participate in your sport, but participate in things outside of that. And it's all about growing as a person.
My coaches have helped me with figuring out who I really am. Their lives are dedicated for us to succeed.
Florida's baseball team is off to a nice 2-0 start in this season, defeating Illinois Institute of Technology 15-13 in 11 innings and taking down Carroll 11-10. The Pointers will be in action when they head down to Auburndale, Florida for the 6-game spring trip. So 2-0 to start the season, it's not a bad start, is it?
It's not bad at all, and I think, it's just a nice start to the season, honestly. It's the beginning of the season, you don't really have that many thoughts about the team yet because it's still very new, but I think just the main thing to point out is the amount of runs in the game. 15-13, 10-11. It's quite a bit.
It's a little concerning. It's obviously nice to see you can score that much, but it's also a little concerning
well,
to show that you
exactly.
gave up that much.
You look at, say, like a major league team, they can have all the hitting in the world, and if their pitching just gives up how many runs, it's not going to help their case of being the best team. Mm-hmm. No, it's definitely good to see them 2-0, but it's hard to gauge where they are right now. It's not like a football team where if they win 1 or 2 games, well, they might have a chance of making playoffs. With Pointers baseball, I mean, you still got how many games left to prove yourselves?
Yeah.
Plus, they have a 6-game tournament where they're heading down to Florida.
True.
So these early season, it's kind of like baseball, how they have basketball, where they have holiday tournaments where some of these teams head over to like the tropical areas and play a few non-conference games. But obviously, the Pointers don't play a conference team for a while. How much does that hurt them in the long run with, this long trip and not being able to see a familiar foe?
I don't think it's really that bad. I don't think it's that big of a deal, honestly. I feel like this tournament is more of a case of just trying to gauge of what is this team, what is this team's identity? Are we an offensive powerhouse, or do we want to focus more on defensive? Currently, what I got from these 2 games is that we're an offensive powerhouse that has not very good defense. However, I feel like that's what these 6 games are really going to be about, is what is this team, what can our expectations be for this season? And I think playing against these non-conference opponents really help that, honestly.
Yeah, without question. Do you have anything to add to that?
I guess along with that, I mean, we're not seeing teams like Whitewater, Stout, or Eau Claire, or whoever. We're seeing colleges one's from Massachusetts, one's from probably Florida, the area. So it's definitely different. I mean, Florida baseball is definitely different than Wisconsin baseball. There's a lot more talent down there compared to, I'm not saying that there's not talent up here, but it's a lot different being down there compared to being up here, where weather's different, obviously, and there's a lot of factors that go into that. So
does that play into factor the weather of this time of year? Obviously, it's going to be warm regardless in Florida, but these Wisconsin players are used to a little bit of cold, rainy, snowy. Is that going to be a easier transition for them, or is it going to be harder for them to go down to Florida?
Easier. I think the transition to go from cold to warm is going to be way easier to go from warm to cold, and they have been practicing indoors, so they've been kind of getting used to these warmer temperatures because it's indoors, and I feel like, starting to reach it. It's March, starting to go into spring, so the temperatures are rising, but they still have a little bit before it truly reaches, baseball season. True. 60 degrees, 70 degrees, Wisconsin baseball season. Right. But at the same time, I feel like the transition is just way easier to go from cold to warm.
True, but something else I have to be careful is going down in Wisconsin right now, there's almost zero humidity. And going down to Florida, you're maybe going to be struggling to breathe if you're running
it
around a
definitely
lot.
is different. Like Pointers baseball, I mean, when I was on campus, I've seen them practice during the fall. Still kind of warmer weather, but not, warm enough where it's 90 degrees or whatever. But it's definitely different transitioning from, a gym where there's probably no humidity at all to, God knows, like 90% humidity. With, baseball does affect, it has an effect with the humidity. The balls travel farther. They might,
The wind plays a big factor.
Definitely,
as well.
that's a huge factor.
We see, like, obviously in ballparks also matter. We see AmFam Field, or Miller Park is what I call it.
Miller
Is
Park.
a shorter field, so you're able to hit home runs easier. And so really it depends on the type of field that you're playing on, to how you get used to. So I know, so pitching, that's a little bit of a shoddy spot these first two games. We kind of look at some of the stat lines, 13 and 10 runs given up. Obviously they got the W, which is the more important thing, but you do not want to consistently be giving up double-digit runs.
It's concerning. I saw the scores beforehand, and it was really just, like I'm going to say it again, it's really concerning because it's like, is this going to be a theme? Is our pitching just not going to be that great? Like, again, we won. We scored a lot of runs, but, how is that going to affect us in the future?
Without question. Also being able to hold teams to no points in the later stretches of games is going to be really important as well. It's always nice to see a baseball team in action, especially now because MLB is not having spring training to watch. So we're going to take a final break, and when we come back, we'll discuss March Madness.
UW-Stevens Point is home.
It's a university where professors know your name and get you involved in research.
They inspire us to realize big dreams.
At UW-Stevens Point, sustainability is what we stand for.
Our beautiful campus encourages exploration, developing new fields, and problem solving for the real world.
It's a great place to launch your career.
UW-Stevens Point is home.
Apply today at uwsp.edu.
Selection Sunday is just 6 days away from today, but there's still so much basketball to be played until we get to seeding. Lots of questions will be answered on Sunday's selection show. With a week of conference tournaments ahead of us, I want to get your guys' perspective to how the final bracket will shake out. We'll kind of look at the conference tournament that matters to us most.
Big Ten.
The Big Ten tournament.
Big Ten tournament.
All right. Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to start us off real quick. So there are a few teams that I think can make a bit of a big name for themselves in this, at least trying to make a big name for themselves at the end of the season. Obviously, one of those is Nebraska. They've been red hot recently. They beat Ohio State. They beat Wisconsin, and I don't want to talk about it. It makes me it brings up traumatic memories of Wisconsin not being able to make an up-close basket. But
they also injured Johnny Davis.
That sucks too. But Nebraska is red hot, and you can't deny the talent that they have on the team. So I think that they're probably going to beat Northwestern. And honestly, they can probably beat Iowa. So I think they can do it. Another team that's probably going to make the finals, it depends on how... Wisconsin depends on how Johnny Davis is. If Johnny Davis is injured for the rest of the season, they are screwed. If Johnny Davis is fine, they're probably going to make the finals. And that's also going to depend on Purdue, because Purdue is one of the better teams they're ranked 9th right now. They're the highest in the Big Ten, but they're a 3 seed because of conference. So it's really weird how it's going to shake out, but I think it all depends on Johnny Davis.
Right, and let's talk about seeding-wise for the Badgers. It seemed like when they beat Purdue to win its share of the Big Ten regular season, that they were in shape for potentially a 1 seed if they can win the conference tournament. I feel like all of that is gone out the window now with a loss to Nebraska. But let's talk ceiling. I think if the Badgers can run the table, win the conference tournament, they got to be at least a 2 seed.
I think more of a 3 seed personally.
If they win
the tournament, I still think they're a 3 seed.
Still think they're a 3 seed, despite beating Purdue presumably 3 times.
That is fair. You did beat Purdue 3 times, and you did beat Illinois. However, I still think that loss to Nebraska hurts maybe a bit too much.
I kind of agree with that. I mean, Nebraska was ranked last in the Big Ten Conference. I mean, they've won only, 9 games and not even. And it does sting to lose to them by 1, even with all your full strength. I feel like the Badgers they should be a 2 seed. I mean, the way they've played all season, it's been 2 seed worthy. I mean, obviously you would love the 1 seed, but I feel like there would be a lot of pressure if they were a 1 seed. So.
Right. It would be a lot of crazy things would have to happen for them to get a 1 seed. A scenario that just popped through my head is the Badgers would have to just steamroll their way through the tournament, and then a lot of these teams ahead of them would just have to fall off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And
so a 1 seed's probably out of the picture.
Right. So I would say 2 seed ceiling, likelihood
3 seed.
Yep. But let's focus a little bit more on the health of Johnny Davis, because the Badgers, they did get that double bye, so they play on Friday.
It's good.
It's a question, if he's not 100%, do you even play him? Do you rest him for the NCAA tournament?
For the NCAA?
Yes. If you think that we're a 3 seed regardless if we win it all, if we just rest Johnny until the NCAA tournament, is that something?
Until the NCAA tournament?
Yes.
Oh, yes, definitely. You rest him throughout the Big Ten tournament. Yes. I think 100% just focus on the health of Johnny Davis. Johnny Davis is the core of this team. If Johnny Davis is hurt, the entire team falls apart. I mean, they have great players on the team. Chucky Hepburn is making himself as a Wisconsin legend. You have Wall, you have Brad Davis, but you still have Brad Davidson, and you still have these great players. But if Johnny Davis is not okay, this team is gonna fall apart. So you focus on Johnny Davis, you rest him throughout this entire tournament.
Any views on that?
I mean, I kind of agree with that. You don't want him, if he is healthy, you don't want to play him too much where he might get hurt again. I mean, might re-injure himself.
That's the only question, is because you don't want him to have too much time off to where he's
rusty.
He's a little,
he's going to be struggling in the NCAA tournament like that. Yeah.
It's a finer line, because the injury that we saw against Nebraska really had a lot of people holding their breaths, because he was limping, holding his knee.
It was
going. We still don't have 100% certainty what it was. A lot of rumors are saying it's a sprained ankle, which sounds like not exactly terrible, but a bad sprained ankle still is not.
It's not the same as a minor sprained ankle where you can still walk. I mean, you can still maybe play. I mean,
I think personally the big thing that is sort of helping the optimism is that he did limp off the court. He didn't just go down holding his knee and he needed help, because that would have been absolutely catastrophic. It would have been so bad. But because he limped, it probably is probably a major sprained ankle, and he is probably going to be out for a couple weeks. But at the same time, it's still possible for him to come back, maybe. And if Johnny Davis is okay for if he says I am fully okay for this tournament, I say you still reduce his playing time, but you still play him if he's like 100% healthy. However, if he's not, just rest him.
They'll do similar to what happened with Michael Jordan after he came off his foot injury, where he had a limited amount of time and they sat him.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting for sure. Obviously, we hope he's okay. A lot of people have been saying that Coach Gard is assuming that he's going to be okay, 100% ready. So that's something to keep an eye on. But also another topic I kind of want to cover is the NBA right now. The Bucks are on a little bit of a hot streak.
Let's go.
Bucks
basketball.
Defeating one of the better teams in the East, the Bulls, and they also beat the Suns.
Which is the best team currently.
Which is currently the best team. So let's look kind of at the standings right now. The Bucks are in 3rd place.
Correct.
Of the Eastern Conference. Is there any way they can get back to the 1 seed, or are they?
Oh yeah, definitely. They're only 3 games behind, honestly. Then they still have quite a few games left to play in the season. I think it's definitely possible for them to still make it back. And the only issue that I'm having with this team right now is they're incredibly inconsistent. It sucks. It's never really happened before with this core we've had is inconsistency, but we go on the skid, and then we proceed to go on a 4-game winning streak that we've beat the Bulls and the Suns. I don't understand.
It's strange because they'll be playing the Cavaliers, for instance, who are not a bad team by any means, but they'll be ahead of the Cavs by 20 and then lose. and then they'll lose to another team.
They'll probably lose like the Magic or something.
And then they'll play a team like
Phoenix.
Like Phoenix, they'll beat them. They'll play a team like Chicago, and they'll beat them. And then they'll play another halfway decent team and just obliterate them by 30. So they're just such an inconsistent team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, even kind of looking at last year, they weren't always the perfect team. I mean, halfway through the season, I looked at this team like, there's no way this team makes the finals. Look what they did. So
Bucks basketball.
Yeah. Kind of looking like right now, I'm looking at the standings here. They have Philadelphia and Miami ahead of them. Definitely two teams they can beat.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Philadelphia is as hyped up as they are. Oh, we got James Harden.
Definitely.
We got Joel
God,
Embiid.
no. Yeah, James Harden is.
I do think, in fairness, Joel Embiid's name being involved in the MVP conversation is warranted. He has had one heck of a season. But I think James Harden is not the player who he used to be, where he could light up the court and go for 50 against the Golden State Warriors. But the Eastern Conference has a few teams that do scare me a little bit. The Celtics are a team that are off and on. And the Brooklyn Nets, a healthy Kevin Durant is a scary sight to see.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And if Kyrie comes back on the court, that'll be another team that could compete. As of right now, they're on a play-in scenario, but still, they're not an easy team to beat.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting to watch this play-in tournament just because of the Nets. Seeing how they're going to do is if they lose in the play-in, then the entire playoff is going to change.
Yeah.
However, I think if they do make it, then things are going to get. Then I think they have to play Miami first because it'll be like either play Miami or whoever the 2 seed is going to be. So it's going to be interesting to see. However, there's no one else that can beat the Bucks, right? I think when the Bucks are on, they're the best team in basketball. However, it's that flicking on and off, like you said about the Celtics, that really just frustrated Bucks fans like ourselves here. It's frustrating to watch because when they're off, they suck. It's awful to watch. But when they're on, they're the best team, and it's awesome. So that's my thoughts.
Anything to add?
I kind of agree with that. I mean, as long as they stay consistent or get rid of the inconsistency, they definitely have a great shot at making another finals and winning. I mean,
yeah, it'd be exciting to go back-to-back, that's for sure. And before we leave, don't forget to search and join the SPTV March Madness pool. The name of the group is SPTV March Madness. Well, that'll do it for today's episode. Don't forget to check out the other shows we have here at SPTV. We thank you all again for watching, and we will see you next time.